Right, well, here we are. Dux Brittanarium, the Welsh in the foreground, the English in the background. Everybody seems to have an anger problem with those pigs, who I suppose don't really belong to either of them. Now, the game, Dux Brittanarium, is driven by a card system. So, they're the cards. There. Let's move them up a bit. There you go, you can see them now. And what I do is I've sorted out my army. It's all in this really good book. Everything you need to know. It's a smashing book. You know, I'm not always a big fan of these things, but I am a big fan of this. Properly done, nice campaign, good map system, good campaign system with the various tribes. Backup cards all comes with the set. You can buy additional cards if you get into the game. Tiny little armies, nice. As a sort of Dark Age historian, I honestly think it's the game that gives me, personally, the most manageable feel of a post-Roman Britain skirmishy fight, where armies would be very small. So anyway, enough of the blabber. What's this? First unit to go, Saxon missiles. Now for this game, I'm not doing Saxons and et al. I'm doing Welsh, who are, as I've said, in the foreground. So their missiles are there. And Norman English. Archers in this game play a very, very small role, skirmishers. They're not important, to be honest. Now, you can shoot, move, everything's based really around 3 dice. So I show you 4 dice, and then I ask you to I ask you to take one away. Sorry about that. I'm going to throw 3 dice and add them together. That's going to be my movement. If I want to shoot, I lose a dice, so I only throw 2 dice together, add them, and that's the movement. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to throw 2 dice because I'm going to move, and I get to move 10 inches. Again, I like this system because you get, and it's up to 10. It doesn't have to be bang on 10. But I like the idea that not every regiment in the Dark Ages would move a precise amount. They're not drilled, are they? There's not somebody going left, right, left, right, left, right, left, right, and off they go. And the piggies are going to scatter. And I'm going to do it on as if the table's a clock, where that way is 12 o'clock. So that's 8 o'clock. So the piggies going to sort of start to run this way. They can't go very far. I get 1 dice for every shot. And this is where the game differs from many others. So I look for missiles there. The range is 0 to 12. The enemy are in the open. I throw 1 dice per figure. I've got a 2, 2 4s and a 6. So I need 4, 5 and 6 in the open at that range. So I've got 3 hits. Now I convert them to an effect. Now my men are missiles. So basically I need 5 and 6 to hit, because as it tells me on that table, 1 to 4 is a miss. And I've got 1 hit, which is 1 figure. No saves. There we go. So the 5 is a shock. 6 would be a kill. You get a lot more shock in this game than you do kills. So I allocate shock with a counter. When there's more shock than troops, they have to withdraw a number of inches. And every 2 shock, you have to subtract 1 dice from the number of dice you throw in. The next card to come out has been the Saxon Lord. In the distance, at the peasant's farm, a dog barks. Nobody knows why. Now, the Saxon Lord, ta-da, is there. Each commander is allocated a certain number of command points. and they vary dependent upon how well they do during the campaign. Now this fellow has 3 points, which means he can use 3 special events. He has 5 cards, and at the moment he's got aggressive charge, and because it's a boar, which is his army, that gives him a bonus. He has disengage, which can be very useful. Audacia, which means he can play an extra card because he increases his level from 3 to 4. But because it's got a dragon on, that's actually the Norman card, so it's not as good for him. Discard Bibamus, and he can play that to give bonuses. Once he plays them, he replaces them from the pack, so he's always got 5. But he has to be within shouting distance, commander distance, really, of the unit he's giving the command to. I did a video about this ages ago. It's like, if you're looking for the thumbnail, it's like a cartoon Napoleonic sergeant shouting in some chap's lug-hole. And I always say that verbal command distance is in battle 6 inches. So he's got 6 inches. He could perhaps use one of those, something like an aggressive charge to crash into a unit, but he's quite far away. I think at the moment he's going to attach himself specifically to that unit. That gives him 1. And I'm not going to worry too much about asking him to do anything else. Everything's tickety-boo, really. And the next card to come out is the British Lord. And when we look from the Norman perspective, we can see again he's got his warriors ahead of his main force. The dog barks in the distance. He can command any of those troops by spending a command point. So what I'm going to do, he can ride through this unit because they're not a formed shield wall. He needs to be within 6 of them. So if he rides to there with his hero, he's now within 6 of them. So that's 1 command. He orders them to come back. Eight. Puts them behind there. That's 2. And he's still within 6. So his 3rd command point is he takes off that counter. The next command, British Leader 1. The British Leader number 1 has 2 command points, and he commands the Teutonic looking knights in comparisons. Well, I'm quite happy with them stood there. British missiles. Now they've moved back quite a way. Saxon leader number 2. He leads the worst of the Welsh. Who are at the far end over here. He only has 1 command point. But I have given him all 3 of those units. That's my choice. I could have given him 1, I could have given him 2, I could have given different commanders different units. I could have had the units out of anyone's control, in which case they would have gone after all of the lords and commanders. But the way I've organised is to go with officers having specific units. And in my head, the Welsh are aggressive, they're the attackers, they're going forward, 3 dice, all guns blazing. They go 15, crash, they hit them. Now again, because I like the staggered changing in units, I believe personally the chance of those 3 units all charging side by side are very little. So I'm going to throw different scores for different parts of the 3, even though they are 1 unit. And they've only got 9. So they, as the dogs howl at the sound of the Welsh voices, the screams, the bloodlust, the horror, the Welsh warriors charging. And in we go. Oh. Yeah, they hit them. So if we look at the Welsh forces who have attacked down here, you fight with the front 2 ranks of men. Well, there are only 2 ranks, 2 lots of 3. And they get 1 dice per man, so that's 6 dice. But the commander's attacking with them. Now he only gets 1 dice because he is a level 1 commander. Level 2 commander gets 2 dice. If I was playing any cards, they might give me extra dice, but I'm not. So we now throw those dice and we see the results. I've thrown the dice for the ordinary men in black, and for this purpose I've thrown the green one for the commander. And I've done that deliberately because if you were playing this game as part of a role play or part of a fantasy game or part of a campaign generally, you might be interested in knowing what that man has scored. Has he hit anybody? It might be one of the people who play in your Dungeons and Dragons group, and he might be an elf commanding a group of elves. You work it out for yourself. So when I go to the chart now, I'm looking at a levy who, in the open, have thrown those dice. So I know that 1 is a miss. Can get rid of that. 2, 3, and 4s cause shock. And a 5 or a 6 are a kill. So I'll just for now just pop that Norman just there for a second. Now the Normans fight back. Similarly, they've got 6 men in their front 2 ranks, but they've got a hero. And at the moment in my game, the heroes are all worth 2. So I'm going to throw 2 dice for the hero. Also, I'm going to throw an extra dice because my warriors are a class higher than the levy. Going back to the chart, which is all there on the back of the book, helpfully. So I'm a warrior. So a 1 and a 2, they're misses. Get rid of them. 3 and 4 are shock, 6 are kills. So they have lost 2 men dead, they have lost 1 man dead. The Welsh took 5 points of shock. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I always think of shock as being a bit like exhaustion. If any of you have been role players or live action gamers, you know how hard it is to fight long term the adrenaline's up and you're frightened and so on. And so there's the shock. The next thing to consider, because there are casualties, are any of those casualties the actual heroes or nobles? So, if a noble is with a group that loses men, he throws a d6. If the roll is equal to or less than the number of men in the group he is attached to, then the noble has been hit. So that noble is attached to 4 men. So with himself, if he gets a 6, he is going to be one of the casualties. No. And the final part of that resolution is, if there is 1 man killed, you withdraw for excess shock. 2 men, you would fall back 1 inch. Now, we've still got a few things to do. There are 2 more Welsh militia levies attacks on the Normans, and there are still some commanders that haven't had their cards come out. When all the cards have been drawn out, that's the end of the first turn. But because the video's been a bit teachery, laborious, and I don't want to bore you, well, I do, but in the old days I used to get paid to bore people. Now I'm reliant upon you to stay there and love me. Love me, I'm thick. I'm going to stop now, but I'm immediately going to do the rest of the battle, but in a faster, more way. You know what I mean. And I'm not going to keep going on about the rules and who do this and do that. Two Fat Lardies. You get the map. You get the cards. And you can buy extra cards for other tribes as your game evolves. I highly recommend versions of this game because I love it, and I can't. All I can tell you is, as a wargamer, I keep coming back to it. Trouble with recommending things, you might hate it, but I've used it for fantasy. I've used it for the Dark Ages. Any natives, any conflict where you're using relatively small numbers of troops. Oh, I know what I've got to say. I apologise for more background noise. I dropped my phone. I know. I've had a mobile phone 20 odd years. And then, first of all, I dropped it in my Chinese, so it all got covered in sweet and sour sauce. And then I dropped it in the garden, and it all went luminous green. Ooh. And it all broke. So I had to get a new phone. And I've had an upgrade, they say. But the upgrade microphone picks up a lot more, but with more distortion. And I haven't managed to work that out yet. But anyway, you know me. The height of poor quality videos. It's my raison d'etre.